Subscribe to Blessed Dark for your dose of art, architecture, and design, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.
Hey yo guys, welcome back to Blessed Dark. I hope all of you are well. And today is another special video because today in this video, I'm going to discuss one of my projects, something I designed. Okay, so before I start, let me just say this is a very unusual architecture project. And this is literally the most conceptual or the most unusual thing that I did while I was in school. So today I'm discussing in detail my entry for the 120 hours competition back in 2015. I discussed this a little bit in my portfolio video, but here I'm going full on in detail. Alright, before I tell you about the theme of that competition or about the entries, let me first tell you about 120 hours. So 120 hours is a competition. I discovered it back in 2015 when I was in my second year. It is a competition that is for students, but also it is managed by students. Everything here is taken care of by students. It's a completely free competition to take part in. And what I absolutely love about this competition is it is much more conceptual. It is much more about ideas. It is not about concrete, definite building things always. Although they have had competitions where the winners' entries have got built. But it is also about thinking. It is mainly about that thought, about that idea. Alright, so the basic idea of this competition and why it's called 120 hours is you are given 120 hours to design, literally 5 days. They give you the brief on one day, 5 days later you have to submit the design. And so within that 5 days you read the brief, you interpret the brief, you understand what you want to make and you design and present it and send it off. So this is actually a very exciting competition and I'll leave the link down below so anybody who wants to join this competition can do so. Alright, so let's talk about 120 hours that happened back in 2015, the one I participated in. So explaining that year's competition to you is a bit tricky. So I'm going to do it in parts. Before we understand what we need to do in the competition, let's first look at the site that was given for the competition because that is the basis of the whole competition. So here is the Arctic and here is Norway. In between these two, you can find a place called Archipelago of Svalbard. This is actually a collection of small islands. Svalbard was discovered by a Dutch explorer, William Barents, in 1596. But because of its location, it's not really been a place where people settle down. So just as human beings do with any new land they quote-unquote discovered, they exploited the islands by hunting for whales. The area around these islands was rich in whale population and the fishermen came in piles. Once whaling died down, hunting took over and people hunted for walruses, reindeers and even polar bears. So in short, humans came and nature got disbalanced, as if that is news to anybody. But the resources of Svalbard was not just limited to wildlife. Ever since the discovery of Svalbard in 1596, visitors had informally been charting landscape, waters, sailing routes and resources. And soon Svalbard became an important place for scientific research. It also became the last point of departure for anybody trying to reach the North Pole. So by the end of the 19th century, there were a lot of tourists who started coming to this place. And some people started seeing opportunity in this. Now along with everything else, there were also claims that this area was very rich in coal deposits. And so as we entered into the 21st century, countries wanted to cash in on this newfound land. So Americans established a city called the Longyear City. The Dutch, the Barentsburg, the Russians, the Grumont, and the Swedes established the city of Pyramiden. Eventually, the site of Pyramiden was sold off to Russia. So let's now come to the reason why we started this whole story in the first place. The city of Pyramiden. By the way, I did not think I would find a street view for this city of Pyramiden, and I would like to thank this guy whose shadow we can see right here. Without your efforts and commitments, this video would not have been possible. So thank you so much. So the city of Pyramiden actually became functional from 1956. It was a Russian colony of coal mines with a total population of 1,000 people, which included miners and their families. There were apartments, a communal mess, a space for recreation, including a heated indoor swimming pool. One more thing of importance that will come in handy later in this video is that the soil here was not really rich enough to support plant life. To get around this, soil was imported to this area so that Pyramiden could become greener and be used in their greenhouse as well. So all in all, this quaint, quiet place had started to flourish. Now in 1996, very close to each other, there was an accident and an explosion which claimed the lives of many people on the site. And following this, all its citizens were evacuated over the course of summer. Left behind as if frozen in time was Pyramiden, a deserted town full of signs of life that once had been. Now think about it, it is very cold up there. Things don't decay. In buildings there today, we can still see some beds, drawings, photographs, plants. Everything just seems to be frozen in time at the exact moment when the people left. Till today, the site is abandoned and you can still see these buildings if you go there. So Pyramiden was the city that was given to us, and I hope with the introduction that I gave you, you understand what the city was and what the city is today. Basically a ghost town. Now let's look at what the competition asked us to do. In this competition, we needed to come up with a way to help preserve this city. Now when I say preserve this city, it does not mean just keep the structures intact. Keeping the essence of the city intact. To help guide us, they had given us the theme of experimental preservation. Now experimental preservation obviously was very new back then, but I think even today not many people know about it. So again, before we can talk anything about the competition, anything about what I did, let's look at the term experimental preservation. Now experimental preservation. Now usually when we talk about preservation in architecture, we talk about keeping the structure in its current state or talk about reconstructing parts and or maintaining it. A lot of times we convert these spaces into museums. But experimental preservation asks us to look beyond that. Now there is no exact definition or path to follow when we talk about experimental preservation, because it is about experimenting and finding new ways. Now I know what I am saying might sound very vague and very weird, so let me try to explain this with an example. Now this is the Glass House by Philip Johnson and it is considered an architectural icon. In 2008, this structure needed some repairing so it could be preserved and conserved nicely. And for this job, Professor Jorge Otelo Pailo was called. So this man is called in for preservation and he sees, some yellowness on the plaster in the ceiling. So normally you would maybe rework the plaster and make the structure look new, or at least try to show its original state. But Jorge had something else in mind. So turns out the yellowness on the ceiling was because there was a lot of smoking done inside this house, and that smoke turned the plaster yellow. So Jorge had an idea. He looked at all the activities that happened in this house and he wanted a way to preserve that, the memory of how this house was used. And he did it with the use of smells. Jorge proposed to the trust the use of crafted fragrance as a means to remember its inhabitants. Basically, he would introduce the smell of freshly painted steel, the smell of new plaster ceiling, and the leather Johnson's legendary Barcelona chairs. He also proposed to use the smells of the colognes that people used at that time. And most importantly, he wanted to reintroduce the smell of cigarettes. So the idea here was not just to preserve the structure, but its memory. Now, I think this proposition was never implemented, but I hope you get the idea of experimental preservation. In a way, it is about thinking beyond the architectural language that we generally communicate in. Alright, so now that we have an idea of what the site is, what the brief is, now let's take a look at, what I did for the competition. So basically, we had to come up with ways of, using the theme of experimental preservation and coming up with ways of preserving the town of Pyramiden. And so 120 hours started, and I was for a lot of time, I think 3 days or 4 days out of the whole thing was just spent thinking. Now what I'm going to do, I'll show you my exact sheets in a little while. The sheets were not that great, but I really want to capture the idea. So I'm going to narrate the idea to you and show you some visuals with it. So let's see if the idea makes sense, and I'll just share with you what my whole concept was and how it was to unravel. So imagine you going to Pyramiden and you seeing these empty buildings. So you see everything around you, because everything is so well preserved, it doesn't feel as deserted as it is. And what we do is we place speakers. Within the site, we place speakers such that you can still feel and hear, and it makes you feel as if there are still people around. You hear people together, people celebrating, footsteps, you hear all of this and you think, what, maybe there are people on this site. So what I wanted to do was, I want to take whoever comes to this place, I wanted to take them through the site and get them to this building. how I get them to this building is as you go nearer and nearer and nearer, the voice starts getting louder and louder and louder. The voice seems to come out of that building. So you sort of want to go in and you want to meet these people because it genuinely feels like there's nobody outside. It genuinely feels like there'll be somebody inside. So you go in and you're led to the staircase. Basically, now as you're led to the staircase, the voice is the maximum at the very top. So basically what I want you to do is I want you to start climbing those steps. I want you to start going up. And as you go up, through the corridors, through the whole area, you'll be able to see the bedrooms. You'll be able to see, doors open. You'll see that maybe there are some people here because there are still some drawings, beddings, some photographs around. There is still, it seems ghostly, but it still seems lively. Where are the people? So you go up, you go up, you go up. Finally, you reach the final floor. So what I had done in my whole project, the only built construction that would happen to the site would be on this building, would be an additional floor. So you reach the final floor and the voice is the maximum. It feels like as you open that door, you're just gonna find people inside. So you open the door, there's nobody, there's still voice coming but there's nobody, and then as you enter, the door closes behind you. It is an automatic door, but as it closes behind you, suddenly all the noise disappears. It is a completely extra padded insulated room so that no voice can come in or go out. And as it closes and you turn back, just behind that door is a mirror. As you look at the mirror, in the drop dead silence, you realize there is nobody here. It's just you. As you go out to the windows, everything is well insulated, and as you go out to the windows, you can finally see the town for what it is, a ghost town. There's nothing here, there's nobody here, it's all deserted. And in this journey that you take of coming from the stairs, going to this door, and suddenly everything going silent, you have sort of lived through the whole experience of this town. A whole lot of population started living there, and then suddenly, because of certain circumstances, everybody just up and left. In this whole experience of what you felt, you went through what the town went through. So that was basically what was my idea for this 120 hours. And it might seem a little haunting, but I loved this idea. And I think if somehow it could be executed well at any place, it can really make you feel a certain way. And that is what I love about architecture, is it can make you feel a certain way. Yeah, that was my idea for 120 hours. Let me just show you the sheets that I presented for 120 hours. Alright, so here is the first sheet. So basically for this competition, we had to give 2 A2 size sheets. That was the limitation that we could use. That was the space that we were allotted. And so this is my first sheet. Now visually, I'm going to be honest, I could have done a hugely better job, but this is back when I was in second year. I did not know CAD. I barely knew Photoshop. So I think considering everything I did know, I did try my best. Obviously the visuals are not up to the mark. So this is the first sheet. So obviously it was not just me, but everybody who took part in this competition did use text to sort of tell their whole story, because unless either I send them a video, which we could not do, and tell them the whole experience like I did to you guys, but without that, without writing, I think with just visuals in the amount of space that is given, you might not be able to completely convey what you're trying to say. And so that is why not just me, but everybody used a lot of text. And that is why when you go to the second sheet also, you will find quite a bit of text on that sheet. Here is where I explain everything that I wanted, that I just told you guys as well. In my sheet, I think I showed them what all I wanted to use, materials and everything. You know how we send sheets off. I think the other people who, especially who won and the honorable mentions, their sheets were much more conceptual, and so they celebrated the concept, which I think, if you think about it, that is what I should have done as well, just celebrated the concept and not go into the nitty-gritty details of it. But yeah, so this was it. You can pause the video later and read through the whole thing if you want to. So these were my entries, my sheets that I sent for the competition. But obviously I did not win. I want to show you the entries that did win. So I'm going to show you the top 3 entries. I'm going to show you one more entry that was personally my favorite. So let's first go to the entry that came third. So hey guys, this video was actually getting a little long, so I had to cut it down, and that is why I have sort of edited out the parts about the winning entries. That part is still available, and trust me, it's mind-boggling, it's amazing. But because this was getting longer, I had to cut it down here. All of that part is still ready, it is becoming a video, but that video is available on Patreon. If you're one of the patrons of this page on Patreon, you can find that video on Patreon going up very, very soon. And in that video, I discussed the top 3 entries and my personal favorite entry from this competition. If you think I put a lot of thought into what I did, you have to look at these 3 entries because whoa! So it is completely amazing, and I sort of give you my commentary and my take on these entries as well. So if you want to check those out, you can just look at my Patreon page, and if you want to become a patron, you will also get access to this video. So do check it out. It'll be in the description below. That is why I did this pehle bhi. And that is it. And so I'm just skipping over the entries in this video, and I'm straight away going to the outro. And here we go. And that was it, you guys. That was my entry for 120 hours competition. Some winning entries and also the entry that I personally like the best. Also, if you like this video, give it a big fat thumbs up. Please share this video and please subscribe to Blessed Dark. Also, if you like the content that I make on Blessed Dark and would like to support this platform, you can do so through Patreon. So Patreon is a platform that lets you support your favorite creators by becoming a patron. And once you do become a patron, you get access to bonus videos, behind the scenes content, exclusive content. For example, when I did my last video, which was the interview with Viviano about OMA, he had worked at OMA for 5 years, so he talked about his experiences, at OMA with Rem Koolhaas, all the stories. So there was this amazing conversation that we had that is posted on YouTube. But on Patreon, there was this additional bonus video where you got to see the portfolio that got Viviano into OMA. So if you want bonus content like that, much more things coming to that platform very soon, you can find the link for Patreon in the description below. And yeah, that was it. So 120 hours actually just rounded up with their latest competition. The day I messaged them, which was I think day before yesterday, is when their final deadline for the competition was. I think we'll together create some content around their new competition, understanding their jury process and everything. Let's see. But do go and check out 120 hours as well. That was it for this video. I will see you guys next week with more content. Bye bye.